Aviation technology has created a new and eerie spirit domain, with airports in all corners of the globe reportedly home to some intense paranormal activity. Flight 191. The 1979 aviation disaster occurred when one of the engines separated after takeoff from O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, Illinois. The horrifying crash that resulted cost 273 lives, including all crew, passengers, and 2 people on the ground. Soon after the tragic disaster, strange stories started to emerge from the area around the crash site. Motorists on the adjacent highway began to witness bouncing orbs of light and even fleetingly glimpsed figures wandering within the field where the flight had gone down. Police actually went in to investigate the reports several times, believing them to be simply trespassers and souvenir hunters with flashlights. However, no matter how fast their response to these reports, on arrival authorities found the field completely empty. Reports of eerie lights and shadowy figures in the location continue to this day, as well as claims of voices being heard shouting, moaning, or screaming during the night, even when there is no one there. Dogs are also said to react strongly in the area, snarling, barking, or panicking for no visible reason. Residents of the trailer park next to the field reported that within hours of the disastrous event, they heard strange knocking sounds on doors or windows, and on investigating the sounds, found that no one was there. The bizarre phenomena seemed to intensify in the following weeks, with experiences of doorknobs being turned or shaken and objects moved. There were frequent sounds of disembodied footsteps on porches and stairways, while some residents even came face to face with ghostly figures. The apparitions would complain that they had mislaid their luggage or declare that they had a connecting flight to take before completely vanishing. One man out walking his dog reported encountering a lone young man roaming around near the crash site. The witness claimed that the stranger smelled faintly of gasoline and appeared to have thin streams of smoke or steam emanating from him. Despite the odd situation, the witness strove to point out a payphone, but when he turned back, the young man had vanished, although it was an open area and he had turned his back for only a second. Even within O'Hare International Airport itself, these ghostly strangers have been spotted. It is known that sometimes a young man wearing slightly outdated business clothes can be observed using a payphone right near the gate from which Flight 191 departed. When the man finishes his phone call, he then reportedly walks a few steps and promptly vanishes. Over the years, there have been multiple photographs and bizarre EVP recordings which some claim to be the ghosts of Flight 191. Blucifer. There are many reports of paranormal activity at Denver International Airport in Denver, Colorado. One relates to the claim that it was built over a Native American burial ground. Disturbances reportedly began when the airport started playing Native American chants on a loop on a pedestrian bridge. Travellers began to complain of being shoved by unseen hands, having their luggage inexplicably knocked over, and experiencing an overwhelming sense of being watched or followed. People reported that these phenomena would pursue passengers even after they had boarded the plane. Complaints of all kinds of poltergeist activity at the airport became so bad that tribal elders actually visited to do a ritual to appease the restless spirits in 1995. Another strange saga from Denver International concerns the renowned 32-foot tall illuminated sculpture standing on a hill south of the airport. The striking statue of a cobalt blue, red-eyed Mustang has been nicknamed Blucifer. The huge work was commissioned in 1992 as a public art project and designed by artist Louis Jimenez, but from the outset the project was plagued by delays. In 2006, with the sculpture still unfinished, tragedy struck when it fell from its hoist and onto the artist, costing his life. Finally installed in late 2007, the fierce-looking sculpture now has the reputation of being a cursed and haunted object. Lucifer is blamed for its artist's demise, while the late sculptor is also said to haunt it. There have been many sightings of Jimenez's apparition over the years, apparently showing up in photographs of the sculpture, and sometimes even appearing to pose for the snap. Heathrow Airport. The ghost of ruthless legendary highwayman Dick Turpin, while reportedly sighted all over England, seems to particularly favour Heathrow Airport. Numerous travellers passing through the massively busy airport have claimed to see Turpin lurking about the premises, wearing his antiquated attire, a billowing black overcoat and tri-cornered hat. His restless spirit seems to be particularly active at night, when his apparition will wander about shouting, screaming, and generally making a commotion in the quieter early hours. According to some reports, he is even heard to bark, snarl, or howl like an animal. His ghost is also said to regularly breathe down airport employees' necks as they work, and can become quite violent. He has been known to punch, scratch, or push people. In one terrifying account from 2004, an airline worker was reportedly dragged by her hair across the ticket counter by the spectre, in full view of a number of horrified witnesses. Heathrow has also seen a tragic air disaster, which has spawned some unnerving stories of its own. On March 2, 1948, a DC-3 Dakota from Belgian Airlines, travelling from Brussels to London, was about to land at Heathrow when it hit thick fog on its approach. The plane crashed, resulting in the loss of 3 crew members and 17 of the 22 passengers on board. It was recorded that, as people on the ground searched the debris in heavy fog for survivors, a dazed-looking lone man materialised out of the surrounding mist. Wearing a dress suit and hat, he politely asked if anyone had found his briefcase before wandering away again into the night. It was later realised that the man the searchers had seen was among the deceased found at the site. The mysterious spectral gentleman continues to be regularly sighted roaming around the runway or through the terminal, perhaps still seeking his briefcase. His apparition is sometimes even seen sitting in the lounge as though he is waiting for a flight, but will disappear instantly if approached. He created a particularly startling incident in 1970 when air traffic control alerted authorities after noticing a man in a suit and hat aimlessly strolling around out on the tarmac. When police and the airport fire department arrived, air traffic control reported they were tracking the man whose presence was showing up on radar, yet the workers on the ground could see nothing. They searched extensively and could find no trace of anyone being there. Meanwhile, air traffic control was adamant that the intruder was definitely still out there wandering around, and that the authorities were visibly right on top of him. Other ghosts are also encountered around Heathrow Airport, including a strange presence which seems to appear only from the waist down. Archerfield Airport. During World War II, Archerfield in Queensland, Australia, was heavily used as a military airfield for the Allied forces. On 26 March 1943, a C-47 Douglas Dakota landed at the base for refuelling and maintenance en route to Sydney, carrying a cargo of important electronic equipment. The next morning at 5 a.m, the plane was readied for takeoff, which unfortunately was prevented by a thick fog bank. However, the crew of the C-47 was eager to get their crucial cargo to Sydney and were on a strict deadline. Ignoring the hazardous conditions, the plane took off into the fog anyway, but was soon to veer off course, careen into trees and explode. All 23 people on board perished. Since the tragic crash, the spectral figure of a man wearing World War II flight gear has been regularly seen all around the airport, especially near the location of the crash site. The ghost is described as so lifelike that several times it has been mistaken for an aviation buff dressed up in costume, until the apparition suddenly vanishes into thin air. The friendly spirit is sometimes seen smiling and waving at passers-by, only to blink out of existence right before their eyes. Other witnesses have described observing whole groups of servicemen wearing World War II garb walking around the runway or hangars. Phantom World War II planes are also seen to patrol the skies in the area, in particular a ghostly aircraft that witnesses are certain is a C-47 Douglas Dakota. The plane is said to be completely silent, with an unsettling habit of suddenly disappearing mid-flight. Suvarnabhumi Airport. Suvarnabhumi Airport is one of 2 international airports that serve Bangkok, Thailand, and probably the most intensely haunted in Asia. Built over a cemetery and what was called a cobra swamp, it was considered to be cursed and haunted even before completion. Construction workers complained that angered spirits could be seen lingering around the area and heard chanting, whispering or shouting. These ghosts were also attributed with causing many freak accidents, including some that were fatal. The ominous rumours about the airport became so strong that Thai officials even arranged for 99 Buddhist monks to perform chanting and rituals so as to appease the spirits and exorcise them from the site. However, these efforts were seen as fruitless when, after the airport opened in 2005, there were several fatal traffic accidents on site involving airport workers, of course blamed by some on the vengeful spirits. Since then, Suvarnabhumi Airport has become a reputed paranormal hotspot. One notorious spirit believed to prowl the airport is an elderly man named Pu Ming, who walks with a stick and is said to have a blue face and aura around his head. The frail elder will startle people by suddenly materialising and introduce himself in a soft, wavering voice. Another wandering presence is that of a woman carrying a baby. This spirit is thought dangerous as she often appears before speeding cars, only to disappear before impact, causing the vehicles to swerve or crash. This apparition has also been blamed for causing a Thai Airways airplane to skid off the runway in 2006. The airport is also home to substantial poltergeist activity, with the sounds of disembodied footsteps and voices and traditional Thai music with apparently no source, frequently heard phenomena.